Welcome to True Crime Threads. Today we uncover the shocking truth behind the Smith family massacre. The Smith family's farmhouse was a landmark in Pine Hollow, a quiet town nestled between rolling hills and dense woods. The white, two-story home stood at the end of a winding dirt road, its windows overlooking an endless stretch of farmland. To outsiders, the Smith family seemed almost picture-perfect. Benjamin Smith, a contractor known for his reliability, had built the farmhouse with his own hands. His wife, Camilla, had transformed the property into a haven for her children, complete with a sprawling garden, a chicken coop, and a small playground. Their 7 children, all homeschooled, were rarely seen in town but were described by neighbors as polite and well-behaved. But Pine Hollow awoke to horror one cold November morning. The Smith family, all 9 members, were found dead inside their home. The discovery was made by their nearest neighbor, an elderly woman named Marjorie, who lived a mile down the road. Marjorie had grown concerned after noticing that the lights in the farmhouse, usually turned off by 10 p.m., were still on late into the night. By morning, when she saw the family's truck parked in the driveway and the curtains still drawn, she decided to investigate. Marjorie approached the house, calling out for Benjamin and Camilla. Her voice echoed in the still air, but there was no response. She tried the front door, but it was locked. Circling around to the back, she peered through the kitchen window and froze. The scene inside was unlike anything she'd ever witnessed. She immediately called the police, her voice trembling as she tried to describe what she had seen. When authorities arrived, they were met with a grisly tableau. Benjamin and Camilla were found in the living room, their bodies slumped on the couch. The children were scattered throughout the house, 2 in their bedrooms, 1 in the hallway, and the youngest, just 3 years old, still clutching a stuffed animal in the nursery. Each victim had a single gunshot wound, and the positions of their bodies suggested they were taken by surprise. The house showed no signs of a struggle or forced entry, and the doors had been locked from the inside. Investigators quickly realized this was no ordinary crime. The precise execution suggested the killer was familiar with the house and the family's routines. Yet no weapon was found on the premises, leaving detectives puzzled about how the massacre had been carried out and why. News of the tragedy spread rapidly through Pine Hollow, leaving the small community in shock. How could such a horrific crime occur in a place where everyone knew each other? Speculation ran rampant. Some believed it was the work of an outsider, perhaps a drifter, or a burglar caught in the act. Others whispered that the killer might have been someone closer to the family. After all, who else would have been able to enter the house undetected? The lack of immediate answers only deepened the sense of unease. At the center of it all was the farmhouse itself, now a silent witness to an unimaginable crime. As the sun set on Pine Hollow that day, its rays casting long shadows over the property, one question loomed over the town: what had really happened inside the Smith home? As investigators began digging into the lives of the Smith family, the perfect image they had cultivated started to crack. Benjamin Smith, widely respected in Pine Hollow as a hard-working and honest man, wasn't as squeaky clean as his reputation suggested. Beneath the surface lay a web of financial troubles. Records revealed mounting debts, largely stemming from failed business ventures and unpaid loans. Friends and colleagues painted a picture of a man under immense pressure, his once thriving contracting business now teetering on the brink of collapse. More troubling, Benjamin had recently entered into questionable deals with individuals known for shady practices. These dealings raised questions about whether someone he owed money to had grown tired of waiting for repayment. Could the massacre have been a message? A way for someone to collect a debt in the most brutal fashion imaginable? Camilla Smith's reputation, too, came under scrutiny. Known for her involvement in local charities, she was often seen as the backbone of the family. But whispers began to circulate about irregularities in the accounts of one of the organizations she volunteered for. A small, anonymous tip suggested that Camilla may have misused funds meant for community projects. While investigators couldn't immediately substantiate these claims, they raised suspicions about whether Camilla had hidden aspects of her life, even from her own family. The children, meanwhile, had their own layers of complexity. The eldest son, Leo, was described as intelligent but aloof, with a noticeable tension between him and his father. In the months leading up to the tragedy, neighbors had overheard heated arguments coming from the farmhouse, always between Benjamin and Leo. Some speculated that Benjamin's strict and often controlling demeanor had pushed Leo to his breaking point. Hazel, the second oldest, presented another mystery. Though homeschooled like her siblings, she had secretly been in contact with people outside the family's tightly controlled circle. Messages on her social media, unearthed by investigators, hinted at plans for independence. Hazel had expressed frustration with her family's isolated lifestyle and hinted at wanting to leave Pine Hollow altogether. These messages painted a picture of a teenager desperate for freedom, possibly willing to do whatever it took to escape her family's grasp. Adding to the intrigue was Ellie, the 12-year-old middle child, whose fingerprints were later found on the lock of the empty gun safe in Benjamin's study. While Ellie was seen as shy and reserved, the discovery raised unsettling questions about her role in the events leading up to the massacre. Could a child her age have been involved in such a calculated crime? Or was her fingerprint evidence of something more sinister happening within the home? Finally, there was the matter of an anonymous tip that had reached the police early in the investigation. The caller claimed that a family meeting had been held the night before the murders. No further details were provided, but the timing was enough to pique investigators' interest. What was discussed during that meeting? Had it triggered a conflict so severe that it ended in bloodshed? As the layers of the Smith family's seemingly perfect life began to peel away, a picture emerged of a household under immense strain. Financial woes, hidden resentments, and secret desires all pointed to a family grappling with turmoil. But who had the motive, and more importantly, the ability to carry out such a calculated and brutal act? The deeper the investigators delved, the more the once idyllic Smith family seemed to resemble a powder keg waiting to explode. The investigation into the Smith family massacre took a chilling turn when detectives uncovered a hidden compartment in Benjamin's study. Tucked away behind a false panel in his desk, the compartment contained several items, stacks of financial records, a handwritten will, and a small gun safe. The safe, however, was empty, and the absence of a murder weapon only deepened the mystery. The compartment seemed carefully concealed, raising the possibility that someone in the family had been hiding it, or that someone else had known exactly where to look. The financial records painted a bleak picture of Benjamin's struggles. Large sums of money had been borrowed from multiple sources, some of them legitimate, others less so. One ledger listed payments to a man named Victor Hensley, a contractor with a reputation for intimidation and violence. Hensley had reportedly worked with Benjamin on a failed project, and rumors suggested their relationship had soured over unpaid debts. Investigators couldn't ignore the possibility that Hensley, or someone like him, might have been involved in the killings, exacting revenge for Benjamin's inability to pay. However, it wasn't just Benjamin's financial troubles that raised red flags. Camila's digital footprint revealed a series of encrypted emails sent to an unknown recipient. The contents were fragmented but suggested a drastic plan to sell the farmhouse and relocate the family. This contradicted everything neighbors had said about the Smiths, who were known for their deep ties to Pine Hollow. The messages hinted at desperation, with phrases like "no other way out" and "protecting them from what's coming." Who was Camila communicating with? And why had she kept these plans secret from the rest of the family? Forensic analysis of the safe's lock revealed another shocking clue: faint fingerprints belonging to Ellie, the Smiths' 12-year-old daughter. The discovery sent ripples through the investigative team. How could a child her age be connected to the safe, particularly one that once held the weapon used in the crime? This detail raised unsettling questions about Ellie's potential involvement. Was she an unwitting accomplice, or had she been manipulated by someone else in the family? Detectives also discovered another piece of evidence hidden within the farmhouse. Behind a loose floorboard in Hazel's room, they found a torn letter written in her handwriting. The letter was incomplete, but the fragments revealed a growing resentment toward her parents and an intense longing for freedom. "I can't keep living like this, and I'll do whatever it takes to get out," were phrases that stood out. The discovery cast suspicion on Hazel, whose secret communications and clear frustration with her family suggested she might have had a motive. While investigators were combing through the family's secrets, forensic teams scoured the farmhouse for additional clues. A trace amount of gunpowder residue was found on the sleeve of Leo's hoodie, left crumpled in his bedroom. Combined with his strained relationship with Benjamin and the disturbing entries in his blood-stained notebook, it painted a chilling portrait of a troubled young man possibly pushed to the edge. However, the case grew more perplexing with each new finding. No single piece of evidence definitively pointed to a culprit. Instead, the discoveries painted a fragmented picture of a family under siege from within and without. The missing gun, the cryptic emails, and the scattered financial troubles created a narrative that seemed to implicate everyone while exonerating no one. As the investigation stretched into weeks, the once clear image of the Smith family as a harmonious unit continued to dissolve. Who had access to the gun safe? Why had Ellie's fingerprints been found on it? And what role did Hazel's secret frustrations and Leo's paranoia play in the tragedy? Each answer seemed only to raise more questions, leaving investigators chasing shadows in their search for the truth. Weeks after the Smith family massacre, investigators were still grasping at fragmented pieces of the puzzle. Leads had grown cold, and the town of Pine Hollow began to settle into a tense, uneasy silence. Just as it seemed the case might drift into obscurity, a new piece of information surfaced, shaking the investigation to its core. Luna, a close friend of Hazel, approached authorities with a revelation that turned the spotlight onto Hazel. Luna claimed that in the weeks leading up to the massacre, Hazel had confided in her about her growing fear of someone within the family. Hazel had described the atmosphere at home as suffocating, hinting at a growing paranoia that one of her parents, or perhaps even one of her siblings, was capable of violence. Luna recalled Hazel mentioning a plan to leave the family and start fresh, but the details were vague. She said Hazel seemed desperate, trapped between her longing for freedom and her loyalty to her siblings. This new testimony placed Hazel at the center of the investigation. Detectives revisited the torn letter found in her room and noted its striking alignment with Luna's account. Hazel's writings reflected a growing frustration with the family's insular lifestyle and her determination to break free. "I can't live like this anymore," she had scrawled, the words etched with the desperation of someone at the brink. But what was Hazel's plan, and had she acted on it, or had it led to something far more sinister? As investigators dug deeper, they unearthed another chilling piece of evidence. Hidden within a crawlspace in the farmhouse's attic was a blood-stained notebook belonging to Leo, the eldest son. The notebook, previously overlooked in the initial search, contained disturbing entries that painted a portrait of a young man grappling with dark thoughts. Leo wrote about his growing mistrust of his father, his frustrations with the family's rigid dynamics, and his fears of being trapped in Pine Hollow forever. One entry, written just days before the massacre, read, "He thinks he's in control, but he has no idea what's coming." The discovery of Leo's notebook added a new layer of complexity to the case. His writings, coupled with the gunpowder residue found on his hoodie, suggested he might have played a role in the tragedy. Yet there was no definitive link between Leo and the missing weapon. Had his anger and paranoia reached a breaking point, or was he merely another victim of the family's unraveling dynamics? Even more puzzling was the revelation that Leo and Hazel had been in contact with each other in secret. Text messages recovered from Leo's phone showed conversations between the siblings discussing the family's mounting tensions. One message from Hazel read, "We can't keep pretending everything's fine," to which Leo responded, "I know, but it has to be handled right." The cryptic exchanges left investigators speculating about whether the siblings had conspired together or if they had feared the same unseen threat. As these discoveries unfolded, another haunting detail emerged. A footprint was found outside the farmhouse, partially obscured by mud. It was larger than any shoe size belonging to the family members, pointing to the possibility of an intruder. But the print's clarity was too degraded to identify its owner. This fueled theories of an outside accomplice, someone who might have been involved in or even orchestrated the events of that fateful night. The combination of Hazel's fears, Leo's dark writings, and the potential involvement of an outsider left investigators chasing conflicting narratives. Each new revelation seemed to point in a different direction, blurring the lines between victim and perpetrator. Was Hazel the mastermind, driven by her desire for freedom? Had Leo taken matters into his own hands, fueled by resentment and paranoia? Or was the truth more complicated, involving forces beyond the family's control? The surviving witness, Luna, had provided a vital piece of the puzzle, but her account raised as many questions as it answered. With no clear path forward, investigators were left grappling with the same question that haunted Pine Hollow: what truly happened inside the Smith home on that cold November night. The case of the Smith family massacre reached a boiling point when investigators began piecing together the final hours of the family's lives. What had started as a tangled web of theories now came into sharper focus, though the truth was far more chilling than anyone could have anticipated. Through extensive forensic analysis and digital records, authorities uncovered a key piece of evidence: a deleted video file recovered from Hazel's laptop. The video, time-stamped the night before the massacre, showed the family gathered in the living room. Benjamin was seated at the head of the room, with Camila by his side and the children scattered around them. Though the audio was distorted, it was clear that the atmosphere was tense. Hazel had secretly recorded the interaction, capturing fragments of a conversation that hinted at a deeply buried secret. Investigators were able to enhance portions of the audio. Benjamin could be heard discussing cleaning up the mess and securing the future, while Camila interjected with remarks about trust and loyalty. Though the specifics were unclear, the exchange suggested a heated family meeting about something serious, something potentially threatening to their stability. The video abruptly ended when Benjamin noticed Hazel's phone recording and ordered her to stop. This discovery raised more questions than answers. What had Benjamin meant by cleaning up the mess? And why had Hazel felt the need to document the conversation in secret? Investigators theorized that Hazel might have been trying to protect herself or create evidence against her parents. But the timing of the video, just hours before the massacre, also implicated her as a possible key player in the events that followed. Further digging revealed another shocking twist. Bank statements linked to Benjamin's account showed a large withdrawal made the day before the murders. The amount, $25,000, was unaccounted for, and there was no indication of where it had gone. Investigators uncovered correspondence between Benjamin and Victor Hensley, the contractor with a violent reputation. These exchanges hinted at a deal gone wrong, with Hensley demanding repayment and threatening consequences if Benjamin didn't comply. Hensley was brought in for questioning, but his alibi checked out. However, his testimony added another layer to the mystery. According to Hensley, Benjamin had confided in him about family troubles and hinted that someone close to him was a ticking time bomb. When pressed for details, Hensley claimed he didn't take Benjamin seriously at the time, dismissing it as an offhand comment. The investigation took its final turn when a hidden compartment in the barn was discovered. Inside, detectives found the missing weapon, a handgun registered to Benjamin, and a pair of gloves covered in gunpowder residue. The discovery seemed to implicate someone in the family, but who? The fingerprints on the weapon matched Hazel, but the gloves told a different story. They contained traces of Leo's DNA, suggesting he had handled the weapon as well. Investigators pieced together a chilling theory: Hazel and Leo had conspired to confront their parents that night, but the situation spiraled out of control. The family meeting, likely meant to address hidden tensions, erupted into chaos. In a moment of desperation, the two siblings turned on the rest of the family, silencing them in a night of terror. The final blow came when a fragment of Hazel's torn letter was re-examined under UV light, revealing a sentence previously invisible: "We'll do this together," or not at all. It confirmed what investigators feared, that Hazel and Leo had acted as a team, driven by resentment, fear, and a desperate need for freedom. But the case's conclusion left Pine Hollow with lingering unease. The massacre was not the result of an outside threat or a random act of violence. It had been orchestrated from within, by the very people who had seemed to embody family unity. The farmhouse, once a symbol of hope and hard work, now stood as a haunting reminder of the darkness that can hide behind closed doors.